All right, one of our favorite guys who does support the Second Amendment is Frank Winn, our Guns and Gear editor. Frank, you have two pistols for us to demonstrate, a Smith & Wesson and a Glock. Why don't you tell me about them?
We do today, Grant. What we're going to look at are two polymer lower pistols, very small pistols that are intended for very discreet carry. And I shouldn't say very small, but they're on the smaller end. They're single stack designs or very slightly staggered designs. One from Glock, the Glock 43. This is a 9mm pistol. Very conventional controls, magazine release, slide release. You can see the trigger mounted frame safety on the gun. And then we're going to take a look too at a competing pistol from Smith & Wesson. This is a particularly good example, I think. This is the Performance Center Smith & Wesson M&P Shield. Again, 9mm, all your conventional controls. This adds a thumb safety, but also something we're going to talk about in detail here in a minute. It adds porting to the barrel, which is a way of helping reduce the recoil movement of the gun as you fire it. The holes are cut in the barrel and vent through the slide, and this vectors gas up to hold the muzzle down in recoil.
You know,
great way to help.
It's personal preference for me, Frank, but I actually like the idea of a thumb safety. I have a Glock, and I love that pistol as well, but I like the idea of a thumb safety, even as just an extra course of protection, especially when you have kids in the house.
It's true, Grant. There are a lot of people who rightly think that proper handling of the gun, proper care of the gun, make that unnecessary, and it's one less thing to remember in a stressful situation. On the other hand, if you've trained with that, for instance, if you learn to shoot on a 1911, as I did, you're used to a thumb safety. A thumb safety isn't a big problem.
Right. Can I also ask you, when you talk about 9mm and the size of the pistol, does the size relate at all to stopping power? So if you put a 9mm in that Glock and then you take the bigger version of a 9mm gun, is there any more stopping power to the bigger version?
Yes, but it's subtle, and that has mainly to do with how completely a powder burn you get down the longer barrel. You will get higher velocity out of a even slightly larger handgun. Okay. Is it a big deal? Not in the sense, shot placement is far more important. If you're trying to stop a fight, shot placement is still king. Okay,
all right. What's next on the agenda here for us?
I think you've got some B-roll there that we shot outdoors. We had a nice day to do that. Why don't we take a look at that? It shows the pistols first in relatively rapid fire, then in slow motion. So let's take a look at those.
All right, we just saw the rapid fire here. Mm-hmm. And now this first one, is that the Glock?
I believe that's the Smith & Wesson is first, and then the Glock. And you can see both pistols are really very controllable, even when I'm pulling the trigger fairly fast. Then I think you've got a second set there showing how the pistols can transition with pretty good pace on a plate rack.
Okay.
Let's show you. This is the Smith.
Let's see the next. And here's the plate rack.
First one, I think, is the Smith & Wesson, and then the Glock.
Okay. There's the Smith & Wesson, and now the Glock.
So you can keep the guns running. You keep the guns running pretty fast. Of course, the key is always practice, and that's especially important with a smaller pistol.
So very similar results from both of those guns. I mean, it would be very difficult to tell the difference.
Very difficult. I think it's easier for when you have the gun in the hand. Shooters are going to say, "Wow, there's a big recoil difference there," and other shooters will say, "Gee, I just don't get it."
All right. You want to shoot these? We got a couple minutes left. Why don't you take us through this?
First, we're going to shoot them in the light, and then I've got a little test for you. Just want you to watch the guns work under regular circumstances. Okay, that's our Glock. Normal capacity is 6+1 with the Glock, but you can get it up to 8. Smith & Wesson, 7+1. Great controls on this gun. Another thing we really like is the Performance Center guns all have tuned up triggers. Now, got a little test for you here. We're going to test this theory that ports will destroy your night vision. A lot of people don't like ports on defensive guns. I'm not sure that that's really true, but we're going to let the viewer decide. Going to have Mark turn out the lights. I'm not going to tell you what order I'm going to shoot the guns in. See if you can tell me which is which.
All right, which gun has the port again?
The Smith & Wesson has the ports.
Okay, gotcha.
But I'm not going to tell you which gun I'm shooting first.
Okay. All right, that's the first one.
Lights back on.
All right, so my guess was the second one the Smith & Wesson?
That's right. Now, the interesting thing is the flash pattern, the muzzle signature was different, but it wasn't really more, and I think the video will make that pretty clear.
You know, it had a V shape to it. Does it actually make it easier with the V to see through the V? I guess in the dark, you're going to be blinded as it goes off anyway, though.
Well, there is an argument to be made that that is actually true, because the ports, you see one here, vent through the slide behind the bullet. What that is gas venting behind the bullet as it leaves the barrel. And there's an argument to be made that you lose some of the crown of the normal muzzle flash that goes into that V.
Okay. It's fascinating stuff, Frank. That was a very interesting demonstration. I appreciate you showing it to us.
You bet. Well, it's always great to be with you.
Great to be with you. Happy New Year to you. Real quick, you got 10 seconds. What's your New Year's resolution, Frank?
My New Year's resolution is to shoot more.
Is to shoot more. That's a good one. That's almost like mine too. So I love cigars, right? I love cigars. And I have not smoked enough cigars this year. So my New Year's resolution is to smoke more cigars coming up in 2017.
Well, I'm going to come down there and mooch off you.
All right, perfect. Hey, Frank Winn, as always, it is a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Great to be with you, Grant.